What's going on, everybody? Anthony Servino here from the Face Off Sports Network news desk with some breaking news from the Kansas City Chiefs. Per head coach Andy Reid, Hollywood Brown is expected to miss some time with a shoulder injury suffered in Saturday's preseason matchup against the Jacksonville Jaguars. This injury, per Andy Reid, is a sternoclavicular joint dislocation. It is a similar injury that forced Tyreek Hill to miss 4 games back in the 2019 NFL season. After the matchup, Hollywood Brown went to a hospital for further evaluations, which means we will not know the severity of the injury or any type of a timetable for his return until these tests come back. Now, once again, we know that Tyreek Hill missed 4 games with a similar injury. That tells me we are sitting in August 11th, 4 weeks from now, puts Hollywood Brown on track for a potential week 1 or even a week 2 return. He will certainly not play again in the preseason. Best case scenario, we get Hollywood Brown in week 1. I would even call it a best case scenario if he misses week 1 and is good to go in week 2. Worst case scenario, this is an injury that forces Hollywood Brown to miss extended time. And when I say extended time, anywhere from 3 games and up. So how do we handle this from a fantasy football perspective? Because we know from paying attention to training camp videos and reports that Hollywood Brown and Patrick Mahomes have been developing a strong rapport so far. Hollywood Brown, if he does miss any time, expect to see Sky Moore line up in 3 wide sets. In fantasy, I want nothing to do with Sky Moore. Sky Moore has been a perennial bust for fantasy managers and the Kansas City Chiefs. What does this help? Well, obviously, this helps Rashee Rice. This also helps Xavier Worthy, who in fantasy football ADP, Worthy is the last of the 3 receivers to go off the board. We are now seeing Rice. Even before this injury, he leapfrogged over Hollywood Brown back to the number 1 Kansas City off the board, but at not much of a difference. Using August FFPC Fantasy Pros Championship ADP, Hollywood Brown, 71.9. Rashee Rice, 71.2. Xavier Worthy, 90.9. So Rice is going 1 spot ahead of Hollywood. Xavier Worthy going a few players behind him. If we get any type of worst case scenario reports back, expect to see Worthy's ADP jump up. Expect to see Rice's ADP jump up a little bit. And depending on how much time missed for Hollywood Brown, I wouldn't be surprised if we see his ADP drop into the mid-80s to 90s. Again, that's worst case scenario. As of now, we don't know. We're only projecting him to miss 4 weeks of action because that is all that Tyreek Hill missed with a similar injury back in 2019. So again, the best case scenario, 4 weeks puts Hollywood Brown on track to play in week 1 against Baltimore, or possibly even week 2 if he did have to miss 1 game. If you are now scared to draft Hollywood Brown, and I get it, historically, Hollywood Brown has been banged up. Played 14 games last year, 12 games in 2022. Even going back to his rookie 2019 season, he only played in 14 games. Another thing that people are scared off of, he only has 1 1,000-yard season to his name. He has popped a little bit in touchdowns. Back in 2019 and 20, he scored 7 and 8 touchdowns respectively, but since then, his production between yards and touchdowns have gone in the wrong direction. Playing with an injured Kyler Murray, playing with injuries himself, and also playing with a guy like DeAndre Hopkins set Hollywood Brown back. But I love Hollywood Brown this year in fantasy. I believe, barring this injury, if Hollywood Brown and Patrick Mahomes take this developing rapport into regular season play, there's a chance that we see the most productive fantasy season out of Hollywood Brown in his career. His best so far back in 2021, he was a wide receiver 21 in fantasy points per game. Since then, he has fallen off wide receiver 27 and wide receiver 49 in that category in each of the past 2 seasons. If you're scared off of Hollywood Brown because you were one-footed and 1 foot out anyway, some pivots as we are now in fantasy draft season. I love Ladd McConkey. And if you need a high floor play, Ladd McConkey is probably your guy. Now, Ladd could have some ceiling playing with the Chargers and Justin Herbert, but I believe he's going to be one of the high floor possession receivers around that price point. And again, he's going 2 spots currently behind Hollywood Brown. If you want a ceiling player like Hollywood Brown, because obviously Hollywood Brown is the ultimate ceiling play, going 1 spot behind McConkey is Christian Watson. He's one of my guys this year. And I get he has some injury concerns with the hamstring of his own, but all reports are saying that Christian Watson has been proactive this offseason and working with medical teams at a university to not only find out what's going on with his lower body, but also how to rectify it and keep him on the football field. So if you need the high floor play, I would pivot from Hollywood to Ladd McConkey. And if you want the high ceiling play, I would pivot from McConkey to Christian Watson. There's also always JSN, who's going around this price point, who does bring a nice mix of floor and ceiling. That's going to do it for today. We'll be back with any type of update on Hollywood Brown's condition as we know about it.